Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the very first town hall meeting hosted by Small Cap Power. Today, we welcome Tom Meredith, Executive Chairman of West Red Lake Gold Mines, trading on the CSE as RLG. So before we get fully going, let's make sure that your screens are full screen. So hit the right top button on the window so that you can see the presentation and also Tom full screen. Also make sure that if you have any questions at any time during the presentation, you type in your questions in the Q&A box. All right, so Tom is going to start off by giving us a very brief, very informative presentation. So Tom, you're ready to take it away?
Yes, thank you, Rachel.
All right, perfect. So let's get started.
Okay.
So you can step away back here.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming and seeing our quick presentation of West Red Lake Gold. As Rachel mentioned, I'm the executive chairman of the company. We're active in Red Lake. So I'll now take you through the presentation quickly, and then afterwards we can do some questions and answers. Okay, so we're in Red Lake, Ontario. We're a project that's focused on Red Lake. Red Lake's been a great mining camp historically in Canada, one of the better known camps in Canada. It's a world famous camp around the world for investment. It's a high grade gold camp. Goldcorp was founded in Red Lake, and Red Lake's produced about 30 million ounces of gold so far to date. Our project, the West Red Lake Gold Project, is located about 20 kilometers due west of Goldcorp's mining operations. There are 3 former gold mines on the West Red Lake project, so that gives us a great starting point to build an asset for our shareholders. We have good potential to expand our resource, which we published about a year ago, and we have significant exploration potential throughout the property, including at the structural intersection target, and on the Rowan part of the property, which is about half the property size where the Rowan mine location is. Goldcorp has been a funding partner with the company over the last few years. In terms of the management team, Tom Meredith, as I mentioned, I'm the vice chairman, but before this I was at a company called Lexington VG Gold, where as the CEO, and we developed that project in Timmins. There was 4 former producing mines on the property, and I developed it from a 3 million market cap company with 60,000 ounces up to 2 million ounces, and sold the company for $200 million. And the game plan is to try and do the same thing here for West Red Lake Gold. Before I was at Lexington VG Gold, I was vice president of operations at a mine in the Kirkland Lake area. So I have operational experience in terms of how to develop projects and how to get them up and running. We've got John Heslop as our vice chairman. John's an industry veteran. John started off in the Timmins camp with Falcon Bridge and Kid Creek Mines. John actually got the Hoyle Pond mine in Timmins into production, which is now owned by Goldcorp and one of their better mines in Timmins. John's also a former past president of the PDAC. John Contact, who was our president, his previous company was Victory Gold Mines, which he developed a project in the Timmins area, and then he sold it to Northern Gold, which became the Cisco Mining. Ken Guy is our exploration manager, and Ken has extensive experience in exploring and developing gold projects in Timmins. Dan Crandall's our audit committee chair and looks after all of our accounting, and Michael Dane is on our board as Michael's a senior geologist and was formerly a senior geologist at Goldcorp in the Red Lake area. We have 107 million shares outstanding. A lot of those, about 50% of the shares are held by a few key shareholders who are funding the project, and by the management team and some former officers and directors. We have some warrants outstanding, which are held by officers and directors, directors and consultants. And we have some warrants are held by financiers, and and options are held by consultants. And is that working? Okay. So there's a bit of a distraction because of a window washing crew right at the window. So our share capital is well held, and we have it well positioned in terms of how the warrants are held by our major financing groups, and the options are out with people who are helping us out. We're in Red Lake. As you can see, Red Lake is in northwestern Ontario, and it's in the Canadian Shield, and there are several good mining districts in the Canadian Shield. Here in Red Lake, this map shows you the district, the Red Lake Gold District. We're on the left-hand side. You can see that with the red outline with 3 former mines on the property, the Mount Jamie mine, the Rowan mine, and the Red Summit mine. On the right-hand side, you'll see where the Goldcorp operations are, the Gold Eagle, Kushnor, the Red Lake mine, which is their famous mine, which created a lot of value for Goldcorp, and also the Campbell mine, which is a famous mine in the Red Lake camp. To the south of the Goldcorp complex is the Hasaga project, which is being developed by Premier Gold, and south of that is the Madsen mine project, which is being developed by Pure Gold Mining. So we do have an active camp with some active juniors in the area, as well as Goldcorp. This shows you our property outline. There's the tan area. We own 60%, Goldcorp owns 40%. That's where Goldcorp's our funding partner. That's where the Rowan mine is. And the other 2 mines on the property, we own 100%. The Mount Jamie mine, 100%, and the Red Summit mine, 100%. We're going to focus on the Rowan property quickly for a second here. You can see down in the lower right, you can see where the old mine site was. Those buildings are being taken down now, but that's where our resource is. We published the resource 1 year ago in February 2016, 1.1 million ounces. That's where we've been focusing our exploration to continue to build the size of the resource. Also on the Rowan is the structural intersection target, where we have an opportunity to find additional deposits. This slide here shows you the Rowan property. On the left side, you see what we call the resource area underneath the Rowan mine. So that gives you an outline of where the resource is. And our plan is to continue to drill to greater depth to build the size of that resource over time, make a bigger gold deposit. In the center is a structural intersection target where there's a couple of different major regional structures that intersect that are gold-bearing structures, and where those intersections occur is where you have an opportunity to find bigger gold zones. The kind of thing that Goldcorp found a big gold zone at their mine back in 1995 and created a tremendous amount of value for shareholders and made it a famous company. And then on the right-hand side, you see the Red Summit mine, which is another mine which we own 100%, and we'll explore that one in the future. This slide shows you our gold zones in the Rowan mine. There's 4 principal zones that have the resource: 101A, 102B, 103C, and 104D. 101A is an interesting zone on the right-hand side, or the very east end. There's a high-grade area that looks very prospective as a place where one might want to focus a potential mining plan in the future, and we're starting to do some internal work on that now. What you can see is these zones basically are parallel. They're about 20 meters apart, and they go basically straight down. This slide shows you the resource estimate, 43-101 compliant resource. It's inferred resource, 1,087,000 ounces. The cutoff grade was 3 grams. If you go to a 5-gram cutoff, the grade goes from the cutoff grade of 3 grams gives you 7.5 grams per ton in situ grade, and if you go to a 5-gram cutoff, then you've got 10 grams per ton. You don't lose very many ounces. So in terms of a mining plan, we're focusing more on a 5-gram cutoff to up the grade and up the potential economics. This slide here shows you selected results from the Rowan mine zones, which you've got some nice high-grade results there, and we anticipate we'll be able to get more good results like that in the future. The most recent one was 72 grams over 3 meters, which we put out about 2 or 3 months ago. So that was a great result as we go deeper on the Rowan mine, trying to expand the size of the Rowan deposit. This slide here shows you the Red Summit mine. The Red Summit mine, we own 100%. On the lower right-hand side, you see where the mine was up and operating back in the 1930s. All 3 mines on the property were operating in the 1930s. They found gold zones on surface and they started mining them. They didn't do any exploration, they just mined. And then what we do today is we actually go and explore these deposits first and then develop the mine second. So that's how we create value for shareholders, is by developing bigger resources, engineering them, getting them permitted, and then ultimately our goal is to develop this project so it's attractive to the mining industry and we can make money for shareholders by if we don't put it in production ourselves, our goal is to actually sell it to a bigger mining company and give our shareholders all a win at that time. We see that as about a 3-year time frame to build this out. So Rowan will be in the exploration cycle probably a year or 2 down the road. The one that's in the exploration cycle now, in addition, Red Summit will be a year or 2 down the road. The one that's currently in the exploration cycle, in addition to Rowan, is the Mount Jamie. We're drilling there now. Mount Jamie was operating in the 1930s, and we are now drilling that project. We see it looks like it has good zones from the historical work, and we anticipate that we have a good chance to create a decent gold deposit at Mount Jamie. Our resource engineer who did the work on Rowan looked at the Mount Jamie data and said, this looks like it could be another Rowan. It looks very similar geologically. So we feel fairly good that we'll be able to create something of value for shareholders doing the work we're doing there today. This is an exploration progress that the company's had over the last few years. As it says here, there's been exploration drilling been going on the entire time, and more recently we put out a 43-101, and we're starting to do initial development and permitting work to make this project an attractive project for a mining company that would like to acquire us and make our shareholders money. So our near-term strategy is to explore and develop high-grade resource at Rowan Property, and also now we've started to do development work and exploration work at the Mount Jamie property. And the overall strategy over the next 3 years is to develop this company and make it very attractive and get a good price for the company about 3 years down the road as we see the market improving and our deposit and project being developed out to meet those needs. Okay, that's the presentation, and so now we're going to go through question and answer, and I'd be happy to answer any questions as to how we're going to make this project successful and win for shareholders.
All right, so Tom, thank you so much for the presentation. So I'm back. We're going to field some questions to you. I actually have 2 that are ready from Peter from Toronto. So you have a question. In the long term, what's your objective as a company?
Well, our objective is to build this company to a point where it becomes a very attractive asset to the mining industry. The mining industry likes to mine deposits. Ideally, they like to buy something that's ready to put into production if they're going to buy something. So we are an exploration and development company, so we're going to develop a project to sell. So in about 3 years, we'd like to have more ounces in the ground, have them at a higher valuation by doing the development work, and then sell it to a mining company who desires this type of a project.
All right, so that's actually leads to the next question that we have. Where do you see the junior gold mining sector heading in the next few years?
Well, the important thing about the junior gold mining sector, I guess, is twofold. One is what's happened in the equity markets, and the GDXJ is a great proxy for that. It's an index that trades in New York. In about 6 years ago, it was at $180, and then it rode down for about 5 years to a low of about $17, and now it's starting to come back up. So the cycle's coming back up again. It's around $34 now, $33, and we anticipate it'll go up over the next few years. up higher up in the cycle to where it was before and what it's done in previous cycles. So that's the market timing aspect, which is important.
All right, so actually we have another question from Philip from Mississauga. So you just mentioned that you're getting your project ready for it to be bought out. Are there any other projects in the Red Lake area that have been successful in getting bought by other mining companies?
Well, there's a couple just over the border in Manitoba. Yamana bought one company and Alamos bought another company. And then there was, another project a bit to the east of us, east of Red Lake was had a big joint venture partner come in and start to develop it. So there is real interest in these deposits because they're in a good jurisdiction, and big companies have their pipelines are getting thinner and thinner, so they need to fill their pipelines, and they like to fill them in a good jurisdiction. So we're in a good jurisdiction, and we're filling a need by developing a project like this.
Right. So we have another question from Catherine in Toronto. What is your cash on hand at this time?
We are, I think we're just under $1 million at this time.
All right. Perfect.
Yeah.
And right now, what are your next plans for maybe the next few months as you're continuing your summer drilling program?
Well, we'll take a break later in the summer, and then we'll start up again in the fall.
Okay. So what will be happening when you start up again in the fall?
Well, that'll be somewhat determined by how this program goes at Mount Jamie. Presumably what we would do is we could do more deeper drilling at Mount Jamie if we get good results, and we think there's a good chance of that. We also ultimately will want to go deeper at the Rowan mine to try and expand the size of that deposit. And then from time to time, we do some exploration looking into other areas for new exploration targets. We have 4 targets on the property, the 3 mines and the structural intersection target. So the 3 mines are pretty straightforward to explore. The structural intersection target got lots of opportunity. It's a big hunting ground, but it's something that gives us an exploration blue sky.
Now this might be a bit obvious, but why are those targets strategic for the company?
For our company? Well, good gold deposits are actually not easy to find. The great gold deposits were found, many of them, many decades ago in places like Timmins or Red Lake and other jurisdictions, and they've been found and they've been mined. And nowadays, it's harder to find good gold deposits. And so to go out and get one, it's not like going to the store and buying a pound of butter. They're difficult to acquire. So we've got some good gold deposits, and we're developing them so that, someone to create the value there because of demand for these kinds of things.
Now I have another question, actually, lots of questions from Rita in Toronto. What about you? Your background can make investors excited about West Red Lake.
Well, my background, I ended up my background's business. I was actually originally in the contracting business, which is why I started as a vice president of operations in a mining company. So I understand operations. My family historically has been in the mining finance industry. So I understand mining finance and operations. And then the previous company that I ran, Lex and VG Gold, as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, it had a $3 million market value when I started and about 60,000 ounces. And over a few years, I developed it to 2 million ounces and sold the company for $200 million. Our company right now, when I started about 3 years ago, had a market value of less than $3 million, and we've got it to 20. And my goal is to get it up to something like we did with Lex and VG Gold, and that's how we're going to make money for shareholders.
Right. Now, recently, you did an interview with Brian Lundeen, who is a well-known newsletter writer. What in your interview did you guys go over, and why is he excited about your company specifically?
Well, the reason, there's 2 things. I think people like the fact that we have a resource that we're developing and can expand and make more valuable. So that's a steady development plan, which we see by executing on that plan over the next few years and with some market timing working with us can create a lot of value for shareholders. That's the base plan, and that's what we're going to do. Then the other aspect is that there's exploration potential on this property where we have 2 major regional structures coming together, and in those kinds of scenarios, you can find potentially big, high-value gold zones which would create a home run for us. So that's the reason I think some people are quite interested in the company.
All right. So is Goldcorp a shareholder of RLG?
Well, Goldcorp, the primary interest of Goldcorp is in the Rowan Property, which they own 40% of. But they are also a shareholder. They have about 1 million shares of our company, and they're a funder.
Right. So how many meters will be drilled this year, and what is your cash position at this time?
Okay, sure. I just answered the cash position question. Originally, we're just under $1 million. We anticipate we'll drill about 10,000 meters this year.
Okay. Okay.
And finally, for the targets that's not within the old mine area, how did you identify the new deep gold target?
Well, that target it's a geological target in that there's two major regional structures crossing, and both of those regional structures are gold-bearing structures. Mm-hmm. So from basic geology, it's an obvious place to look because that's a place, the intersection of two gold-bearing structures is a place where you can find bigger, higher value gold zones. And then sometimes we were given some geophysics too that were helping us point at certain areas of it. It's a huge area. It's about 2 kilometers long and, it's several hundred meters wide. So in a sense, we're looking for a needle in a haystack.
Right. Yeah. All right. Well, Tom, thank you so much again for joining us for this live Zoom webinar.
Thank you.
And for everyone listening in, thank you so much for joining us. Again, West Red Lake Gold Mines trades on the CSC as RLG. We'll see you next time when we have our next webinar.